Ladies and gentlemen, please silence your phones and hush your babies. The show is about to start. Good evening, guten Abend, guten Abend, welcome. I don't know how you say it in French, actually. Would it be bonsoir? I don't know. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the, I was about to say Nemoko Conference Halftime Show. It's not that. We are back with a live stream to talk about some of the latest developments in the church and some of the things that are going on. And with me, as always, I'm joined by some people who make sure that I don't lose the plot entirely. We have Peter Bleakley, although sometimes he does drive me to lose the plot in different ways. And we have Ruth Heath, who is Ruthless Heathen tonight. That's an excellent pun name. And Poppy's, Ruth hasn't got hers yet. Peter, have you got yours yet?
Yeah.
So we're all ready. Yeah, how are you both doing?
Good.
Good,
How are
thank
you?
I'm all right. Little
You
something
got
happened 2 weeks ago.
excommunicated.
I did.
Yeah, I was going to say, about a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
About a month, isn't it?
About a month. What's the date today?
It's been a month.
Yeah, it's been a month and a day. Yeah.
Have you been back to church?
I've been. So I went the Sunday after my council was held, and then I've been traveling. Also, Spakis Platt commented, "I'm glad to finally get to join one of these live. I am too, Spakis. It's great to see you. I met him at a Thrive event in Utah a couple of years ago.
Is it just me, or is the sound going strange?
Oh no, it might just be you.
It's sounding fine to me so far.
Okay,
Yeah.
It might be my connection.
All right. Yeah. So a month ago, I was. I had the council, and then the meeting was the decision was sent to me on the 30th. So I have been traveling and haven't been back since. Too busy, hanging out with tapirs and whatnot, and going up to Scotland and just generally running around the country, seeing people. So, yes. Any other questions you have for me?
Well,
I loved the tapir episode. That was a load of fun.
Yeah. Ruth has questions. Ruth wants to dig into the psychology of all this.
No. I just think it's slightly hilarious that I am now the only member in this chat. Can I just say, you both have as much priesthood as I do nowadays, and I'm still on the books.
Oh, and yeah, someone
did.
It's just my musical instruments falling over. It's fine. Somebody messaged me the other day and said, I wish you would hold up your high standards of factual correctness and logic and stop assuming that you've been excommunicated.
Oh.
What?
Now, some people seem to be taking the phrase "withdraw your membership for a time" to think that I've been disfellowshipped in some way rather than excommunicated. Right. But I can confirm my membership has indeed been removed. The "for a time" sentiment is their idea of saying, "Oh, you're welcome to come back if you grovel and beg." But it's been removed. I'm listed next to my wife in her membership record. I'm listed next to her as a non-member. So put those rumors to bed. I have been removed from membership of the church. My account doesn't work. I can't access member tools, any of that sort of stuff. I'm out. I'm appealing it currently, so I'm working on my appeal. Peter's been working on that with me. What do you think of it, Peter?
It's brilliant because I've had an input. So obviously it's perfectly crafted, Shakespearean in its poetic depth per line. Yes, brilliant.
Is there an interpretive dance element to it? Because I think that could carry it over the lines.
It was written in.
It's not long enough.
Peter. It was written in.
Mine was 26. Yeah, mine was 26 pages, so he's rushing it. It's like a bullet point version compared to a proper one.
Mine's still 3,500 words currently, but yes, we'll see. Stephen G. Clinard is raising an excellent question. He's got a little symbol by his name because he is a channel member. If you'd like to become a channel member, you know what to do. But Stephen G. Clinard said, "Did the zoo let you ride the tapir?" If you haven't seen my tapir episode, you should go check that out as well. All ad revenue from that video is going to be donated to the zoo for letting me come in and see the tapir and to help them keep the tapir fed. A lot of zoos struggled during COVID, and this zoo is a very small one, and they have been struggling. So go and watch that video. Watch it again if you've watched it once already. Send it to a friend who you think might find it interesting or amusing. So yeah, they didn't let me ride it though, unfortunately. Yeah, they wouldn't let me. Yeah, he has to go check that out. But anyway, should we get on with today?
Let's.
Because the title or the thumbnail, losing their grip. Some people have suggested that I should put losing his grip as to sort of make it seem like Russ M. Nelson's going a bit doolally, but I didn't want to go there and make such sort of unfounded speculations. This is very much about the church itself seeming to lose its grip. Starting with, and there's several things over the past few weeks that have happened that make me think, the church is losing its grip at the moment. Just before we get there, someone's asking, what are your reasons for appealing? Well, if I said that out loud, the church would know, wouldn't they? So I will, all will be revealed in due course. Don't you worry. All will be revealed. But Carden and his friends on a channel that I have to admit I don't really watch. So I saw this thumbnail and thought, oh, so their instant reaction to the email that did the rounds in the Sydney Australian Mortdale stake is that the church was hacked. Someone is, and whatever. And it's big. So I thought, well, if they can clickbait, so can I. But I don't know what they really said, particularly. I'm not particularly interested.
Which is why I watch it, so you don't have to.
There we go. There we go. So Peter will know what was said. But as far as I understand it, there was no hacking involved. And we're going to go over the email. And the person that sent it reached out to me, so we can talk a little bit about that as well. But what were your reactions, Peter and Ruth, when you first saw that this email had done the rounds?
Chef's kiss. Whoever wrote it just got the cadence down spot on. And it took me probably into the second paragraph before I thought, no, this can't be real. But it was perfectly done. So whoever it is, well done.
Okay. So let me explain real quick to everyone what this is. An email was sent to members of the Sydney Australian Mortdale stake purporting itself to be, or putting itself across as, a pilot program on informed consent for members of the church. And it started, dear brothers and sisters, I have some wonderful news. Your stake has been chosen to trial a new approach to learning about the gospel. As you know, our leaders are trying to be more transparent with some of the messiness in our history. No doubt you've all started to notice this with the release of the Gospel Topics essays 10 years ago, and videos of President Nelson showing us how Joseph translated the Book of Mormon with his face in a white stovepipe hat with a seer stone. Right. So that's when you know, okay, right, they're being pretty upfront about some of this stuff. I wonder where this is going. This pilot program will involve two objectives. The first is for our beloved missionaries to ensure that all converts are fully informed before they commit to baptism, with no more milk before meat. The second is for all members to go through a short lesson to make sure they are fully informed about our history. Too many of our members are discovering our difficult history on ExMormon websites and podcasts, and it is sadly leading them astray. The brethren's hope is that if you're gently informed from faithful sources only, that hopefully we can all weather this storm together. Now, that was my first clue that this wasn't real. Not my first clue. That was one major red flag that this wasn't real. They talked about ex-Mormon websites. They wouldn't call it that. The church loves the phrase, those disaffected from the church. That's what they like, because that statement puts all the blame and burden on those that have left, right? They have become disaffected from the church. We seem to have lost Ruth, so I'm just going to take her off screen for a moment, and when she's back, we will let you know. But yes, Peter, your thoughts on this?
Well, I thought it's great. The last sort of attempt at something like this was Jonathan Streeter doing his quite controversial apology for the racism, which, again, it's this balance of, if you're a bit skeptical, from the first paragraph or two, there's no way the church would ever say this. But if you're a bit naive and in the bubble, it all sounds convincing because you believe the church is nice and always trying to do the best things all the time. So a lot of people totally believed that and rejoiced and so in a way it's kind of a replay of that kind of experience of actually putting in front of people's face a satire and a challenge to kind of in a way, I don't see this so much as an attempt to disillusion everyone and give them information that's been hidden from them, which is hidden from them usually. I see it kind of more as this is what is eventually going to have to happen. You know, where
This is,
for
yeah,
me,
information
it's
that
like
members should
it's
have to know.
modeling that
Yeah.
absolutely, but also how are they ever going to tell people when the moment of crisis comes? If they want to survive, they will either just die gently and slowly and disappear and make no effort to survive. But if they are going to actually start talking to the adults, they are already trying to change the narrative with the young people in institute and seminary. And then, you know, the idea is, well, we'll raise a new generation of kids with the version of history that includes a lot of this stuff. But they are still moving heaven and earth to make sure the grown-ups never see it, unless a very rare stake actually tries to run some kind of ad hoc, we just invented it because there isn't a real one, course to introduce the adults to the gospel topics essays as a starter. And they don't even begin to sort of dig into the scale of what's gone on. So I find this fascinating because in a sense it's a dry run
What
for what the church
I
will
asked
have
you
to
this,
do itself one day.
Can we have Ruth
Yeah.
jump in there?
yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going to say, and why would they be ashamed of their own resources? Why would they be ashamed to signpost their members towards these resources that are available on their own apps, in their own libraries? And, you know, unless actually they don't want their members to read the truth, unless they don't want people to actually have that cognitive dissonance moment when they go, wow, that's not what we teach in lessons. That's not what I was taught in primary. And this letter is a perfect example of how telling the truth is what gets you into trouble. Ironically, that's where we were a month ago with you studying your membership council. You know, that there is that feeling of, here's the truth, here's what the church is saying is the truth. I'm couching that because terms and conditions apply, but you know what I mean? This is their version of the truth that's being spoken and given to their members, and that's what they're saying is hacked. It's got to be hacked, because why would the real church actually tell people to go read the gospel topic essays and look in their own resources? How bizarre, how ironic that you would say to your believing members, please don't look at the truth.
And Lost Dutchman here is just saying the temple construction blitz and alternate program proliferation seem like deep attempts to repackage the product. I think to Peter's point, the church is going to have to repackage the product at some point. And the problem is they're always just waiting for the people that will be upset by it to die so they can. But the problem is they're always so far behind that the next lot of people who are then about to die will get upset about a different thing. So they're always going to be a few generations behind. They've just got to upset some people and go for it. But on that point of upsetting people, I want to make this clear. Yes, in my disciplinary council, I was being told off for telling the truth, essentially, right? And I was particularly being told off for sending emails about my concerns with things that were happening with my membership to the High Council, people who legitimately had reason to receive my concerns. And the church is trying to say that that was out of order. I would never send an email like this. That this is not what I would do. And so I'm not going to stand here and go, I condemn this email entirely, you know, and tell the person they're terrible.
No, this isn't your playbook. This isn't how
this isn't my playbook.
No.
But this is what the church wants people to think that I did wrong. And that's why I've been kicked out. This isn't what I did. Just to be completely clear, this isn't what I did. This is there's a conversation to be had about the pros and cons of this sort of approach by just collating the church's own sources and putting it in front of members. But the point my state president would make, and the line that I never personally wanted to cross, was, well, those members didn't want to have this put in front of them. And so that's not my place. My position was always, and still is, I will make these videos. I will speak to people in the stake who need to be spoken to, like my stake leaders, right? Because that's legitimate. But I will make my videos, and if people want to watch them, they can watch them. If they don't, they can click the little cross button, or they can come off the video, right? So that's me. That's how I would choose to approach it. But just wanted to get that out there clear, because my stake president and others are clearly trying to paint the image that this is the sort of thing I was going around doing within the stake, and categorically it was not. So
but
yes, I'm really pleased you made that point.
Yeah, whoever did do this, obviously felt that this was important enough to, reach out and do it in their presumably local area, the area that they had contacts for.
Yeah.
And I think landed it perfectly, just really, really pitched it at that right level of deference to the organisation. I mean, they've done it with such it's just gleeful, isn't it? But they've done it with such a nod towards, isn't this wonderful that we are going to now teach with integrity, and we're going to have full transparency, and isn't this a wonderful thing that we would do? Because how could anyone argue against that sentiment? And by arguing against it, the church is actually revealing.
And this is Peter's point, right, about Jonathan Streeter's fake apology for the priesthood ban. Is there are going to be lots of people here now going, okay, but why don't we have a program like this then?
Yes.
Why don't we have? Why don't we know about these issues, or why aren't we prepared to deal with these issues? And the question is because the church wants plausible deniability by saying, look, we put the gospel topics essays out, but we buried them on the website, and
So
yes,
one of you haven't read them.
Yeah, one of our apostles
you have a crisis.
One of our apostles said, oh, you should know these like the back of your hand. You should absolutely be teaching from them. But he must have had his fingers crossed, or there must have been a follow-up email telling people not to, because no one listened to that instruction, or very few people did. It seemed like that didn't get wide proliferation, that these things have been discussed. Because the thing that always makes me laugh about this is where he talks about the release of the gospel topics essays 10 years ago, a decade ago they were released. Oh, we lost Ruth again. But a decade ago they were released. So within a decade, this should be water off a duck's back to the members. Yeah. This shouldn't be a threat to the members of the church at all. Yes, exactly. Everyone should know these things about the church, but they don't. So Peter, do you want to, if you can see it, do you want to just talk us through some quick bullet points of what was discussed in here?
Yeah, I think I've tried to get it on my phone because there's no way I can read that screen. But basically what it then goes through, if that's what you're after here, particularly some of the key themes and topics.
Yeah, just some of the key points that
there is. We're not becoming a god. Now that's interesting because, of course, in our doctrine we are. But it's linking to the church news is frequently asked questions where it tells journalists that's not our belief, which is a massive lie. So that throws the cat amongst the pigeons. But again, a church source. The Book of Mormon not being as it was claimed.
The Book of Abraham,
and lots Book of Abraham, sorry. Joseph Smith having lots of wives, youngest was 14. Doctrine and Covenants 132. Joseph Smith didn't actually practice any of it in how he did polygamy. I'm just jumping through and skipping, so you've got to feel, but there's a lot. It's really super thorough. I think they've got the happiness. Yeah. I don't know if they got
multiple
the
first visions
letter or something.
We jump to the next slide. Nephi, not Moroni, visited Joseph. Joseph was not illiterate in 1830 because they've got quotes. They've got letters that he wrote in 1829.
Plagiarism from the Bible in the Book of Mormon. So it's a lot of the key talking points that people have faith and trust crisis over. So it's laid out really well. It's almost like a sort of CES letter light. But just simply stating facts and linking to the church's own resources.
And I'm going to read the final two paragraphs. It said, brothers and sisters, I know some of the above might have been hard to read directly from our church's website. It's very key there, direct from church sources. And that's something me and this individual have in common for the most part. Unless I'm talking about something else, like tonight, I'm talking about something that was on ExMormon Reddit. So I'll link to that. When I'm talking about things as they happened, I am sourcing the Joseph Smith papers, the Doctrine and Covenants, the church website, Ensign articles, archives of church things. So I appreciate the way he's done that here. He said, however, as we eliminate some of the more troubling aspects of our faith and move a little closer to a more mainstream Christian ideal and beliefs, we hope you will come with us on this exciting journey. There he's making a nod to the fact that the church is very much trying to make its way into the mainstream of Christianity. He said, it's the brethren's sincere hope that this information will be openly discussed amongst members in our region. Do you remember in the letter that I was sent for my excommunication, it said, we have been trying to foster a culture of open and honest communication with the stake, and you and I are aligned on this. But please stop talking about your concerns and problems. Thank you very much.
To the High Council.
Yes, to the High Council, who must
their
be protected
testimonies
at
are
all
so
costs.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh my
It says,
Lord.
amongst members in our region who should not be afraid to come to your leaders, teachers, peers with questions about the above. To know this information and not share it amongst those who have devoted their lives to our beautiful faith would indeed be profoundly immoral. And that is a real sort of is a real shot or a jab at the fact that a lot of this has been kept from members for a long time, and the profound immorality of that. Again, a sentiment which I agree with. It is profoundly immoral to hide things. I mean, legally it might be fine, as we heard in the Gaddy case that just had some oral arguments. We heard that essentially the church is trying to argue that it is their legally protected religious right to make stuff up about the historical nature of claims about their church, not like about what they believe about God and deity, which is within the scope of religion and people can believe what they want to believe. But to say something happened that didn't, right?
Or didn't happen that
or
did.
didn't happen that did. I'm not sure how much of a legally protected right that is, and cue the Americans in the comments going, "Oh, your stupid laws, we're free," etc. I have emails like that almost on a daily basis. I would almost postulate at this point, or it feels that way. Certainly, I get a lot of emails from people talking about our junk laws or some garbage UK law, because Murica, I guess. Sorry, I know like 70% of my audience is American.
Everything Nemo just said means nothing whatsoever unless you're an extreme insider. What do you mean by Gaddy case?
Oh, so there's a case that is going before courts of appeal at the moment. I'm not massively informed on it, so I can't speak too much to the exact details.
In America,
essentially, there is a case in the United States of America where someone is essentially trying to challenge the church's right to say certain things didn't happen in the history of the church, so matters of historical fact that did indeed happen. And they're trying to argue
in the context of tithing reclaims.
No, it's in the context. It might be. They might be trying to get tithing.
I think it
is.
For it, I think it is. So, yes. Again, I'm not a great expert. My understanding is that for the church to avoid having to take any kind of responsibility for making promises about what it would do with the tithing, while lying about that and taking the money, they're again going with some kind of religious freedom protection that they can't be convicted for anything, because it's really about proving fraud. Their case in the States is about President Hinckley said, we are poor, we are using the money in this way, and we're not wealthy people.
So that's more of the Huntsman case, that
yes,
one, I think.
Yeah, but I think all of them boil down to a similar issue. Their basis is proving fraud. And they kept, just as with the temple spires, they're going, well, we can put our temple wherever we want in your neighborhood next to your house because religious freedom. They're also trying to kind of dodge all responsibility for being held accountable for what they said they do with the money, which is the basis of a lot of these cases, by effectively arguing in court that religions should be able to lie to everyone with impunity.
So I think the Gaddy case is the idea that they were brought into a place of paying tithing based on certain claims that aren't of a sort of supernatural religious nature, but are of a factual historical nature. And the church made those claims in order to extract tithing from people. And if those claims on a historical basis are untrue, then the church has lied. And they would then try and argue that allows them to get their money back. I think I could be butchering all this, but Mormon Stories has done some great episodes. Analyzing Mormonism on Instagram has got some. Julia's got some great.
Other podcasting services have it covered.
Other podcasts are available, and they have been covering it. Yeah.
As Richard said in the comments, he's put, I'm sure it is their legal right to lie, but it's certainly not teaching that in Sunday school.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is where I think, did someone say in Coventry Stake, they have these open forums that they do, which is the Stake's genuine attempt to try and address difficult topics. So I applaud them for it. It's a great idea. But I'm pretty sure someone said at one point when it came to the SEC fines, I'm not sure. I don't know whether it was morally the right thing to do, but I think it was legal. Or something like that, and it's like, that's the wrong way around.
Yeah.
Surely
it wasn't legal. It wasn't
legal, but so that's by the by.
as
But
RFM has pointed out.
even if something is legal, you also have to ask yourself, particularly as a religious institution that claims to be God's sort of arbiter of morality on earth, you have to take some then responsibility for the moral weight of your actions, and you have to interrogate the morality of what it is you're doing, or the immorality, depending on what it is.
It's
right?
not like we're stretching to step over a high bar. We're actually wading through a gutter at that point, aren't we? With our moral compass, and I just think as well, and I think this is the whole, circles around to the reason for this conversation, is that it genuinely does not matter what the rules are in America when it comes to how the church operates outside of America.
Nope.
And I think it's maybe difficult for a church that is so rooted in parts of America to understand that once you take that, as they have been doing since the very start of the church, once you take that out into other nations, you have to abide by the laws and the rules of those nations that you're then taking the gospel into. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality. So they're now having to get their heads around and deal with the consequences of operating on other lands.
Well, GDPR is a great example of that, where
Yeah.
I've put in a GDPR request for information pertaining to my excommunication. And so what the church can usually hide behind the scenes and in the dark, they're going to have to hand over to me. They'll try their best not to, but they are going to have to hand over information that they hold on me as it relates to my special category data, my religious beliefs. So they are currently, right now, I think, probably losing their minds at Church Legal in High Wycombe, and the conversations between them and the States. Hi, if you're watching, by the way. I hope you're getting on well with my GDPR request. Church lawyers, looking forward to receiving it in a easily accessible electronic format. You've got to send it to me that way. Those are also the rules. Thank you. They tried to tell me to log into my account once. I'm not standing for that. And I can't log into my account now anyway, can I? Sorry, that was a little bit of sass that wasn't necessary. Anyway, but my point is, yes, they're not equipped, like you said, Ruth, to deal with the laws. And so in Australia, where this is all going on, again, they have different laws, different rules. I can't speak to them necessarily, but they are different. The state president, however, did respond and tried to warn members off, which, if we want a textbook example of the Streisand effect, let's proceed to the next slide, shall we? So, deceptive email sent to members of the Mortdale Stake. Dear Mortdale Stake family, it has been brought to my attention that a number of our members in the Mortdale Stake have received a deceptive email disguised as an official church program. Now, in that sense, he is correct. It was deceptive and disguised as an official church program. That is an accurate assessment. The subject of the email states Sydney, Australia, Mortdale Stake pilot program. At this stage, it's unclear how many members have received the email. Please note that the email is not from the church. Right, okay, the causal clause in this, or the causal relationship between what's being said in this next line, I think is worth some examining. Please note this email is not from the church, so please disregard and delete it. It's not from us, so disregard and delete it, right? It's this idea of like, oh, well, we didn't write it, so don't bother reading it. Not that they go, well, members, feel free to read what you want, but we're just telling you that it's not from us. They're saying, oh, it's not from us, so you shouldn't really read it. Well, maybe not. And then telling members to disregard and delete it, that is definitely one way to make sure that a lot of people read it. And I know from inside sources that about 300 people opened it and opened links. So it's church. If you didn't know that, you're welcome. There's a little bit of information. I'm just going to act as though the church is watching these live streams from now on, because clearly they're spying on me. Or not spying on me. This is public domain. But yeah, they're clearly watching. So hello. And then if you have any questions or concerns, please contact a member of the Mortdale State Presidency. And that was also the invitation of the person who wrote the original email. They invited people to contact their leaders if they had any questions about this. So they've played right into their hands there, because they've told the members to disregard and delete it, which means almost certainly the members are going to read it. And then they've said, but please come to us with questions. So they are now going to be fielding lots of questions. Yogi the Bearman said the links are all to official church website or no. It's my understanding that they were. I haven't gone through and personally checked all of them, but that is my understanding. Yes. So there you are. So what are your thoughts on this response, other than the things I've kind of said already?
Go for it, Peter.
And it's just all right. It's as you say, it's just the thought control that we control your mind. Therefore, as you say, it's not enough to say it wasn't from us. It's you must never look at this. We have forbidden it.
Yes.
You will delete it. You will remove this from existence. And that's kind of, our theme here is how the church is losing control.
Mm-hmm.
It's fighting a tsunami of information, and it's still trying to control that information. It's still trying to control access. It's telling members that we have an approved reading list. There are forbidden books that you should burn.
It is the raw,
much like the
naked
Catholic Church
narcissism
in the Middle Ages. Yeah,
it's the raw, naked narcissism of the church on display here, isn't it? That they're like, no, it's not from us, so go ahead and get rid of it, as though they think they can control this. Sorry, carry on.
And it's that unreality of telling intelligent grown adults that they are forbidden to read something. But again, that wouldn't seem weird to them at all. It would just seem completely normal to say something like that. They wouldn't even think of it being sinister, because you're so in that bubble of control, and that it is your right to tell everyone what to do and what to think, because that's so normalized now in Mormonism, even though it's the absolute anathema of foundational principles of the Mormonism I was taught growing up. This is the tragedy. It's such and it's so futile, because it just won't work. So what happened next?
What happened next?
Oh, unless
Ruth
has a comment.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. So I was just going to say that a couple of things. So one, what are we disregarding? Are we disregarding the church's library? Are we disregarding their website? Are we disregarding all the resources that they make available? Because just because this conduit to that information wasn't from a member of the state presidency, we don't then access church tools. We don't access the library. That seems bizarre. All of these links were legitimate. All of these materials were legitimate. And then the second part, if you have any questions or concerns, please contact a member of the Mortdale State Presidency. Don't speak to your family. Don't speak to your partner, your husband, wife, parents. Speak to the state presidency on this. However, if you've got any money worries, if you've got any emotional problems, don't speak to the state presidency. Go ask your family first, because we don't want to sort you out. It's interesting how they want to be there to control certain parts of the conversation, but other things they're like, oh yeah, anyone else you could ask first before coming to us. It's just interesting.
Yes, Rebecca's saying that is fire, Ruth, and I do agree. To me, it kind of gives this vibe of those in need of further brainwashing. Please identify yourselves.
An orderly line,
it's like, oh, if you've been affected, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's this weird thing where, like with those that sent me emails of support, I guess I found out that some people who sent me emails of support got called in by their state presidency, because just the idea that you would engage with this kind of material seems to be enough to get you called in. While we've got 600 odd people watching, I would invite you to let me know. I'm trying to work out a way to reply to all the people that sent me an email, because I do want to write you all a reply personally. I'm trying to work out how to do that. But in the meantime, if you did send me an email of support, one of the 1,500 people or so that did, could you please let me know if you got called in to speak with your priesthood leader soon thereafter, because I've heard some reports and I'd love to kind of work out if that has been happening. Yes, 666 viewers, what a number. But there was more. The sender then responded. They sent a follow-up, which they informed me they sent a follow-up because initially some people hadn't opened it, and so the software they were using allowed them to resend, and they sent out again. And so, oh, hang on. Standby caller. Someone is saying that they got called in for mentioning me. Send me an email. and let me know what happened, please. And that goes for everyone. Send me an email because I want to.
That should also show up in your GDPR request then, Nemo.
Yep. Yes. So I'll ask for any of that information now. So anyway,
Nemo, can I raise a point of order just quickly?
Oh, go on then.
Sometimes I know. Sometimes when you're putting things on screen, they're only there for a nanosecond. Can you leave them up long enough for people to read? Where you're putting people's comments on. I appreciate you're in a flow.
Yeah, no, I put them on.
Sometimes it's like gone on and gone. But
I put them on,
really
and then
fast.
I read them, and I assume that's long enough for everyone else to read them, and I get rid of them. Maybe that's not long enough. That's fine. Okay. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. We need to respect your viewers.
I do my best.
best.
Right. So this individual sent another email out and said, update, please note a local leader mistakenly interpreted this email as a scam. This is a genuine request for all members of the Sydney Australian Wardell State to become better informed about our history. Interesting wording there. And interesting use of the church's official blue color. Like, that is the blue font they use. This looks so much like a church. They've got the formatting down. And I am a bit of a stickler. I do love a bit of.
We love a font.
I love a font. Yeah, I am known to send most of my emails with the Palatino font, which is the font that the church likes to write most of their stuff in. So yes, that I do that to just give that little flavor of feeling like you're Mormon. And then the sender reached out to me and they explained why they did what they did. And their reasons are, that this isn't just about the people that are in. If people can know, then they can make better informed decisions. And their view was that they should leave once they learn this stuff. And that's never been my view. But, to each their own, right? People have different motivations. So, yeah, that's all I kind of really want to say. I'm not sure I want to reveal too much more because I've already revealed a few little tidbits. But that person reached out anonymously, obviously. But I still want to keep things on the down low. I don't want to risk them getting in trouble for what they did. Because ultimately what they did, while I wouldn't have pretended to be an official church program and I wouldn't have done that sort of thing, ultimately the information they shared was stuff, like we said, that people should have known for 10 years now. So, yeah. Let's move on to the second way in which the church is losing control, which is in New Zealand, or New Zealand, for those who are listening.
That was good.
Authenticity. Thank you. Been working on that all afternoon. Heaven's Helpline came out, ironically, by a reporter, Murray, who is actually a Brit living in New Zealand. So there you are. But this is a podcast series by the New Zealand Herald that was put together by New Zealand On Air. I think it was funded by New Zealand On Air. And this is going to be a multi-part series. I was interviewed, as was Sarah from 21st Century Saints, around the sort of abuse stuff happening in the UK. We're not going to get too deep into this. We're not going to get too deep into what was actually discussed in this podcast, because you should all just go and watch it. You should all go and give it a listen. It reached #1 in New Zealand's podcast charts, I think. It did very well, and it's still doing very well. So go listen to it. It is great. But what we do want to talk about is the church's response to it. So, and it's worth bearing in mind, if we read the description, Heaven's Helpline, it says, how far has the Mormon Church gone to cover up abuse? When journalist Murray Jones started looking into the church's finances in New Zealand, an intriguing Facebook post alerted him to a much bigger and much darker scandal. From the New Zealand Herald, Heaven's Helpline is a 6-part investigation into how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints built a system that protects its wealth and reputation and shields sexual predators from the law. Listen to episodes weekly from October the 17th, funded by New Zealand On Air. I think the first 2 episodes are out currently. It is members of the church sharing their experience with the church's systems and an investigative journalist going into what's going on. Ruth, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 episodes now, and they are fantastically well done. Very compelling listening, harrowing, but so important. And the way that Murray walks through the the subject. I think he does it in a very sympathetic way towards the religion, but without the baggage of either having lived amongst Mormons or being a Mormon. He just approaches it as this is a really interesting lifestyle. This is their history. This is where the church comes from. These are some key words that you might need to know if you've never heard of Mormons. It's really well done, and I think the subjects that he's then discussing and how he discusses them is framed in that context of the way that the church is structured and how that actually can impact the way abuse is dealt with, and the way that people are supported, and the way that people are shielded from actually being held to account for their actions. He, 3 episodes in, it is compelling, and I'm really ready for the next one to come out and hear that as well. It should be listened to widely. I'm listening to it on Spotify. I'm not sure where everyone else listens to their podcast, but it's available widely, and I can't say enough how important it is that this is covered and done in such a good way. He's not being OTT or condemning of the church. He's exploring the issues that have arisen within the church.
Well,
and these are real things that have happened to real people. So it's not about condemning the church. But sorry to go on a bit of a rant. What I've found really disappointing is if you go to the New Zealand Herald's Facebook page, the members have just bombarded the comment section, and they make themselves sound like such horrible people that they're telling on themselves, because they come across as just awful. The way that they are slating the podcast, the way that they're slating Marie Jones, the way that they're slating the Herald for covering these issues. You just think you're telling on yourself. You are revealing to the world who are tuning into this what Mormons are and what they stand for, and how they treat the victims of abuse.
Yeah, it's not a good look at all. And apologies, yes, it is 3 episodes like you said. I haven't caught up with the 3rd one yet, but I will give it a listen. And I think it is really interesting that members have pushed back, and I think it's even more interesting that the church has pushed back, because that's how we know that this is good, right? You know it's good when the church has to push back, when they have to
without naming it,
you,
while being extremely careful to make sure there is no information that you could actually follow it and listen to it to yourself.
But they did put
Passive aggressive city.
They put out this on the 21st of October. And it's members of the Church of Jesus Christ in New Zealand speak up. From time to time, journalists, social media content creators, and others attempt to understand and explain the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and its members. Some of these explanations are respectful and accurate, while others are less so. I would argue that mine was respectful and accurate when I went on Lad Bible. I would say, Anyway, but of course, they have to say some things are really good, but this isn't that really good thing. That's their way of saying something's bad. They'll hold up good, positive, and then go, yeah, but this thing isn't that. That's a common sort of a Mormon way of doing this. For some commentators and content creators who approach writing or posting about the Church of Jesus Christ, their research is done online. Again, that big, bad, scary internet that's always wrong. The place that hosts the church's website.
Can I just say, if this was pre-internet, that's like saying their research is done in libraries.
with books. With books of all things.
Their research is done online.
Yes.
Do you remember the time when regularly
Seriously,
you had to have a copy of the Bible? You got hung on and quartered for owning a Bible. We're almost at that stage, aren't we? Where it's like, how dare they know more about this religion than they're supposed to know?
It's the line, like, let's read the whole line again. For some commentators and content creators who approach writing or posting about the Church of Jesus Christ, their research is done online, and they may also speak with critics of the church, full stop. So they are combining in that sentence the idea that going online is as negative and as uninformed as speaking to critics of the church. And they go on to say that out loud. This leads to
Where
partial
is all of
stories at
their
best
information?
and often distorted ones at worst. But that's my point, Peter. The church's website, the general conference is all online. You know, they always awkwardly say those who are following us by satellite transmission and the internet, as though it's some big scary thing still that they don't understand. You're exactly right, Peter. This is the point, is Joseph Smith Papers is online. The church's gospel topics essays are online. The church's handbook of instructions is online and updated every 6 months because they don't want to print it, because they don't want to be held accountable to the last edition of it. The church is loving putting stuff online and what they call living documents and constant ongoing revelation. They love the internet for that, but they don't like the fact they can't control all the information on it.
Wikipedia, they, you know, if you were to dare to change anything on one of their Wikipedia pages about the church, they're on it, you know, like that, because they want to control the narrative. They know how important online is. They know it's how people communicate with each other. And they are very keen and encourage members to go online and spread the gospel. Crikey, the amount of missionaries popping up in Facebook groups saying they'll come and do your garden for you, or they want friends in the local area. It's ridiculous. Online is where the church lives. So to then, you know, being online with being the bad guys, it's where all of their resources are. And ironically, it's where that Australian email was signposting people towards online resources that the church puts out, and which the church itself has said disregard, delete, do not look. You know, how bizarre.
Mad, isn't it? So apparently the internet leads to partial stories at best and distorted ones at worst. Okay, right,
I'm
fine.
surprised they haven't said it leads to masturbation and turning you gay. Are we in the 70s still?
It says the lived reality of faithful Latter-day Saints is a different matter, because, of course, members aren't encouraged to share that lived reality on Facebook with social media hashtags such as give thanks.
Like soon.
Right. Oh, we're waiting for that one. Yeah, that one's coming back. And it says, they love God and their neighbor as best they can. All right. So already having to shove the caveat in there. All right. As Jesus commanded us all to do when he lived upon the earth. The presumptive language in Mormonism as well. They never say, as we believe Jesus Christ did, or as, no, it's like when Jesus actually lived on the earth, we hold that to be a genuine, actual 100% historical fact. Don't fight with us on it. They use more presumptive language later, it's, about people, what they do for their dead ancestors, as though it is just the fact of life. That is what happens when you do these things. It's never a belief. It's encapsulated in the idea that when Mormons bear their testimony, they say, I know, rather than I believe. We live in this world where this is just the way the world is. It's not a belief system. It's hard fact. Peter?
If you could put Risea Parker's comment on all of this sounds like more jobs for cousins and relations of the general authorities. That's exactly what I was thinking. Sometimes the statements, particularly around abuse, like they've removed them now, but years ago when I was first doing proper deep dive into the church's own statements about safeguarding and abuse, it was like it was written by some idiot 14-year-old intern who just drunk the propaganda. Listen to what this is saying. It's saying all Mormons are just lovely, super people who are kind to their neighbors. In effect, it's saying none of us do child abuse. What are you thinking? And it's ludicrous, because they know that their own clergy, there's like 96 cases are just going through the courts in California, including 20 bishops apparently at the moment. To say this is just insulting. It's not just inaccurate, silly, rose-tinted propaganda. It's completely inappropriate for the seriousness of the accusations and the situation. And then they're lining up these poor members to go on about how brilliant it is being a New Zealand Latter-day Saint. It's literally saying it doesn't matter that we are responsible for cover-ups of abuse. It doesn't matter. The victims of those abuse don't matter. They're not real. Real Latter-day Saints are all lovely, perfect neighbours and would never harm you. And it's just delusional propaganda. But So my next question is, where's Aaron Sherinian? So Aaron Sherinian, who was appointed to be President Newsroom, is it a year ago now?
Yep.
And then kind of huge
Nowhere to be
controversy
seen.
because he's an LGBTQ ally. Is he in charge of this nonsense? Is there someone who's actually competent in the room dealing with the church's media responses to things? Because this just reads like, if you've listened to those episodes and then you read that, as Ruth said, it's just showing who they are. Yes, these people are absolutely in denial. They will just pump out hyper-positive propaganda and refuse to acknowledge that they've got a problem regarding abuse, even on the terms of like every organization does, which at times they've had the sense to at least go that far to say, well, yes, abuse is terrible and we try and deal with it. This is just astonishingly crass.
Let's move through some of it.
And not helping
I
their
take your
case.
point.
Sorry,
Ruth?
just before
Yeah.
you move on, just that headline alone just makes me furious. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ in New Zealand speak up like they're somehow being persecuted. No, the members of the Church of Jesus Christ in New Zealand who are speaking up are the victims of the abuse, who are still believing and still attending and staying in awful, awful situations, believing that their bishops had their best interests at heart. Those are the ones that are speaking up that the article should be about, but it's not. It's patting those people on the back who are in that comment section on the Facebook group for the Herald, being awful, just making themselves look like absolute idiots and making the church look like a cult. They're the ones that they're patting on the back and saying, well done you for speaking up against, we're being victimized by being critical of the church. No, what we're saying is this is actually what's happened to real people who are members of your church, and you left them and you allowed them to suffer in this way. Please change your ways. Then the people would stay. Then the people could be healthy in the church. It's just the wrong way round, isn't it?
What's crazy is they say if a reporter or anyone wants to understand the Church of Jesus Christ, by all means talk to detractors. Well, detractors is a loaded phrase, right? Victims of abuse. Yeah, that's what they are. Or someone like Gina Colvin, a critical voice, sure, but but also be sure to talk to at least some of its believing members. Well, I have a really hard time believing that Murray didn't. If this is the law in New Zealand, which I believe it would be, I have a really hard time believing Murray, as a journalist, didn't offer the church a right of reply and didn't reach out to them for comment on some of these allegations. And the church, like they often do, probably ignored him and chose not to comment. And now they're getting salty saying, oh, he hasn't talked to believing members. Well, maybe if you'd answered the email he probably sent you, asking you for your thoughts and comments, he did try and talk to believing members. In fact, he tried to talk to believing members whose job it is to talk to people like him and not just post reactionary things like this. That's what frustrates me about this. The church, could have had a spokesperson in the podcast, and then he could have compared and whatever. And who knows, that might appear in later episodes, but I've not heard it yet. But I haven't heard episode 3. And then here's some people talking about how tithing is great and let's give money to the church. We're not going to get into this. Pause here if you want to read some of this. But Peter,
Derek Good, I grew up with him. Go back.
Oh, cool. No, we're not moving back. We're moving forward. But you grew up with Derek Good. There's your claim to fame, Peter.
Bless him.
Yes. No, we need time. The time is far spent.
Okay.
As we say in Mormons.
Insider
And we have
knowledge.
We have fun things to announce, Peter.
Okay, go on.
Okay, right. Hang on. I'm going to start my clock. Are you ready? You've got 30 seconds to speak about Derek Good.
Hi. Derek is awesome. He grew up in my wards. Good friends. A lovely guy. But again, faithful. But why are they going on about tithing? Is this all the responses they've got? How on earth did child abuse segue to tithing?
Because what they said was, here is some members talking about how living the principles of the gospel helps them in their life. So they've gone through different gospel principles. So someone's talked about serving a mission, someone's talking about tithing, etc. There you go. Right, there you go.
It always ends up there, doesn't it? Tithing. I pay money to the church. They, again, trying to not look like a cult. This is the punchline of their response.
Yes.
you know, it's again, no, my only point is the incompetence of how this is structured, and
There we go.
it all backfires. Yeah.
Perfect. That was right. I need to hold my watch up to Peter more often. That was perfect.
Can we get a
Right.
countdown clock?
We should.
Shut up.
Diddle-diddle-do.
You guys talk more than I do. Oh, mic drop.
I was about to say something
Have
really
some of
terrible, but
that.
I won't. Okay,
I'll
let's move
check with
on.
Lynn and I'll see what she thinks on that one.
We should start a you know how I do Jesus, Joe, or Russell? We should start like a Nemo, Pete, or Ruth. And who speaks more accumulatively during the episodes. Susie Catherine sent a lovely super chat there. Jamie Dodgers, welcome back. Thank you very much, Susie. I'm starting to feel slowly like I'm back and like I'm more myself. And a good indication of that is the more I tease Peter, the more you know that I'm back and in the game. When I defer to him too much, you know that I've lost my spine and
He's broken.
I'm in a bad place. Yeah. So yeah, I'm starting to feel more and more like myself slowly, but I'm taking time. But one of the things that will help, provided that my appeal is unsuccessful, which, given I have pretty good reason to believe Dallin 8 Jokes was involved directly in my excommunication, appealing to him is hardly going to work to have it overturned. I'm going to be receiving my official welcome to the ExMormon Community on the 29th of November at 7:30 at the house in Leamington Spa, doing my favorite thing, which is singing with other people. We're going to be doing Thrive Karaoke, which we get a load of microphones, we pass them around everyone. We don't get someone stood up on the stage singing. That's cringy. We don't do that. Everyone just dances and sings and jumps around and has a great time. So this will be my official induction into the ex-Mormon community. No, not that I was particularly a stranger before, because ex-Mormons tend to like hanging out with me more than active Mormons do for the most part. But yes, that will be happening. So get your tickets. The link is in the description. I should probably also just post it in the chat as well. Let me just grab that. So tickets are heavily subsidized. Thank you to some very kind donations from individuals. So they are $10. It's like £7 or whatever. And you're getting some finger food. It's a little buffet.
So
me and
Richard went. So it's in Royal Leamington Spa, which is a beautiful, beautiful part of the UK.
Leamington
anyway,
Spa.
I'm going to do the whole hype. Me and Richard were there earlier in the week and went to see the venue, and it is a fantastic venue. It will be such a great atmosphere. It is a buffet meal, but you know, quality stuff. It's Royal Leamington Spa. So it is it is a ticketed thing, because we need to tell them the numbers so that they prepare the right amount of food. But it's a Friday night. I think the plan will, well, what we're doing is we're going to stay over somewhere in Leamington Spa, and if people have got their Saturday free and want to hang out Saturday morning, there's loads of things to do. There's loads of fantastic places to go and eat and visit. There's a cinema in within walking distance, because we're thinking if the Heretic's still on, we might all go and pile into the local view and go and see that en masse as well. They won't know what's hit them. But yeah, there's loads to do. And I think if you want to just use it as an excuse to go to Leamington Spa and do a bit of Christmas shopping and meet up with, and you know, have a fantastic evening, you're going to have a great time, and then roll it through into the Saturday as well. You'll have an absolute blast. It's incredibly heavily subsidized. The tickets are ridiculously cheap for what you are getting of an evening. And yeah, so
there's only 40 tickets. So
only 40 at the moment, yeah. So, and if demand is high, then we can perhaps change that. But I think, to be fair,
Peter's jumping on getting his ticket.
Tickets, the better.
How do people sign up and where?
So there's a link in the chat. So here it is, and it's in the description. Thank you, Kraken fan, for becoming a member of the channel. That is one way you can support me. Shmuel King says, I wish I could come. Have a great time. Come to Melbourne. Have another event with us sometime. I would love to come to Australia. My wife lived there for a little while. I never got to go out there and visit her, but I would love to go to Australia. So if we can make that happen, yeah, I'll absolutely come down and put on some events in Australia. Yes, Ruth.
I was just going to carry on with my hyping up the event.
Oh, go on then.
The venue is within walking distance of the train station. So if you're thinking about how do we get there, you can train it in, you can drive in. There's plenty of car parks around the city centre. You can book in advance for car parks if you want to do that. It's just going to be fab. So I would say the sooner you make the decision, book your ticket. If you're staying over, book a hotel, or if there's a few of you, get an Airbnb, something like that, the better. Promise it's going to be a fun weekend.
Yogi the Bear Man, for all of you Utahns out there who would love to have a Thrive event of your own, well, you have one. It's on November the 9th, Thrive Day in Utah. So go to the same link that I've put out, but then go to the just overall events and you'll see it there. I am also going to be in the United States of America if they don't deny me at the border. They let me in last time. Hopefully they'll let me in again. But if the guy working security at Salt Lake Airport is a member of the church, who knows? Anyway, yes, hopefully I'll be let in. With comments like that US border security might take seriously, please let me in your country. But if all goes well, I will be at Thrive St. George, which is coming on at the end of February, early March next year. So I will be in the United States at an event speaking. So come along and see me there if you can't make this one. But if you're a Brit or if you're in Europe and you want to take a cheap flight into Birmingham Airport and get a train directly from Birmingham Airport down, have a little weekend in the UK, hanging out with a bunch of lovely, fun people. Yeah, jump on in. Anyway, I might even wear the white suit. Who knows? It's very, very, very cheap polyester, though. It could get very sweaty. Moving on, speaking of sweaty, to garments that are a little bit less sweaty now because the church has decided to make some changes that many people predicted would happen and a lot of people thought they could see coming. But rumors circulated based off things like this. Short-sleeved or sleeveless garments being put in with people's normal orders by accident or as a trial or whatnot. But as we'll see, Jana Riess went on to say later that they got kind of... she said she's been bitten by garment rumors before, and this kind of came out around conference time, which is where a lot of rumors tend to circulate. So a lot of people were kind of... I certainly was giving it a light touch, sort of not sure quite how I feel about it. And then all of a sudden, Salt Lake Tribune drops this bombshell. And you better believe that Peter Bleakley sent screenshots to the group chat immediately going, everyone, look. And yes, indeed, the headline was, "Rejoice, LDS women. These new garments will open up more fashion options." Now, before you guys give your comments, I want to say that I think it was someone like Culture Hall. So, Culture, if you're in the chat, shout out to you. Someone, yes. I think someone like you put out this paragraph from the Salt Lake Tribune. "This new style could make it harder for others to judge who is or not wearing garments, a real concern for many Latter-day Saint women. In a 2023 survey, nearly half the active members said there is a right and wrong way to wear them, and more than half said they felt judged for how they wear them." Now, looking at that for a moment made me think this was satire still, because the way that's phrased is a bit like, oh, yeah, and this new style means that people won't be able to judge each other anymore, ha ha ha. But no, like, it's real. That is, and then you read it again, you realize, no, what they're saying is women have had a problem with being judged about their garments for so long that they're happy that they may be able to get away with it a little bit better, of not feeling like they're being judged all the time about what they're wearing. So, yes, there's one of the redesign options labeled open sleeve for garment tops for women and men is being tested by the church in hot climates such as Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, the Philippines, and some southern US locations, apparently. So along with the sleeveless tops, there is also a light one-piece shift, which looks like a sort of slip thing that would go under a skirt for women who mostly wear dresses in Africa. Now, I have a question that I would love the resident lady in the chat to answer for me.
Do you want me to talk about underwear, for crying out loud?
No, it wasn't actually about that, but please do. It's simply, how do you feel about both this in general and the fact that it's a test? because the church is constantly saying that they are guided by revelation from the Lord and that they do not respond to the pressure of members. And now they're testing out new garment styles as though they ever cared about what we thought about them.
So this is to those listening that may have the ears of higher powers. Number one, and we're after the watershed, so I'm going to be specific here. Number one, women do not want a seam that runs straight up their fanny, straight up their crack in either direction. That can go. The men don't have that. That needs to go. So if you don't be chopping off an inch here, that doesn't make the difference. Sort out that seam, number one. Number two, what's with the bra? Why haven't they yet come up with built-in boob support? It was the constant thing when I was first wearing garments was, do you have to wear the bra over, or can you get away with wearing it under? How about just build it in? I'll pay extra. Just build it in. Just give me some boob support. And while we're at it, Spanx have been a thing for 20 plus years. If we're having multiple kids, please, can you just give us something that pulls in our thighs and our bellies and just hold us together? So that's my little shout out. Fashion. Do you know what? This was a cowboy religion. Started in the 1800s. Garments started as the underwear of the day, which everyone was sewn into for the winter time. And I believe that the symbols were either cut in or were sewn in, but sewn into regular people's underwear. So the regular underwear of 2024 for women is bras and knickers. You know, if you feel like we need to have symbols on us, tattoos are a thing. If you want to go there, do that. You know, make it that. You could still have that. You need regular clothing to come to a certain length. The garment shouldn't be policing your standards as far as your modesty. The garment was, in my opinion, was supposed to be about you reminding you of covenants that you've made. Well, there's lots of things that can remind you of covenants that you've made. You make a baptismal covenant, but you don't carry on wearing your white, boiler suit the rest of your life, do you? So it's just not joined up thinking. But yeah, my highlights: built-in bra, Spanx, and please no more bloody seam. There we go.
Right, I don't know what to do with that seam comment still, Bruce, to be honest with you.
Well, you're a bloke, you wouldn't understand.
I would not. I absolutely would not. And on that point, Betty Crockett says the men don't have boobs, they don't care. But it's weird because men in Utah seem to care a lot about boobs, because plastic surgery is a big thing in Utah, and women conforming to what they believe the male gaze desires of them seems to be a massive sort of psychological issue in Utah from my sort of outsider perspective. Call me wrong here, but that seems to be what's going on. And so for a religion that says the body is a temple that is sacred and shouldn't be altered, or you shouldn't, be ungrateful for God's gift to you, they will absolutely put a boob job on it.
I think the other thing that is fascinating here, and again with our theme of losing control, they have built so much doctrine and folklore around the modesty aspect of garments. Even though over time the sleeves have got shorter and shorter, and definitely were at the elbow at some point, Nemo. And in our lifetime, we've seen the compromises.
That's why they've made the change.
But constantly, modesty. It's God put these skins on Adam and Eve to make them modest, in the Garden of Eden, to cover up their nakedness. It's in the language.
Yes, yep.
And absolutely making that the key thing. To then ever announce garments where they're allowing the pawn shoulders is a complete abandonment of all of that doctrine, all of that indoctrination, all that control, all that judging of millions of people, literally millions of people since childhood have been put through this propaganda and the idea that it's about modesty. And now they're showing, no, that doesn't matter really. I mean, no, it's brilliant that they're doing this. It's insane to wear hot. I served my mission in Alabama, which is really tropical. Like, it's incredibly hot and humid during summertime and most of the year. And again, the passive-aggressive, measly, dishonest way the church does these things, they know perfectly well that there'll be massive demand in every country for these different garments, or at least to keep going this way, because they're still not properly adequate. It's not about helping the Africans who live in extreme tropicality, and you would like die if you have got too many clothes on. They as people immediately started saying, well, it's just as hot in parts of America, thank you very much, certainly at some times of year, so we should have these as well. And then within no time, people started finding that they were going to start being available in North American distribution centers, but in a year. So what they're doing is they're cynically, rather than just saying it doesn't matter, modesty, wear what you want, we understand they're uncomfortable in summer. They're doing it. We're doing this for the Africans, these people far, far away that are nothing to do with you, but they can't live our higher law and our higher standards. The racist patronizing as usual. And and they're not, again, being honest about why this is happening. And do remember that when the Renlands were over and we covered their broadcast to the women of Britain from Hyde Park, one of the questions was, are you going to sort out garments because they give us yeast infections and all the rest? And Sister Rennan said, watch this space, But it's taken freaking decades to get here. People have been raising these literal health concerns for a church that's meant to be all about respecting women as mothers and health and all of that, to completely ignore women's voices about particularly how uncomfortable garments are during pregnancy or during periods, and all of it, and how it's literally endangering their health with yeast infections and things, which to their utter shame, Ward Radio lined up some of their wives to mock the idea. I've never heard of anyone having infections from garments, as if it was a ludicrous idea. I'm like, really? Are you that stupid? You've not talked to anyone then, have you? This is the thing. And the church is acknowledging it now.
So I'm saying this knowing what the answer is.
But this is it. The church has surrendered. They have lost control. They've lost control of their key messaging on so many things. They've lost control of access to information about their own history and origins and doctrines. They've lost control of the credibility of their scriptures. They've lost control of the members. If they honestly think they can tell everyone to never look at the internet or learn anything from it, they're delusional now. They're in advanced state of panic. They've lost control of their PR machine because they're producing public statements that totally backfire and that anyone with basic common sense would see. But the person, Aaron Sherinian, they hired to fix that mess and kind of be more savvy in the modern age, either is incompetent if he was involved in this or is nowhere to be seen. As usual, we are held ransom to a bureaucracy of people creating resources, curriculum, and running the bureaucracy who are not competent. They have the money to hire the
Peter,
best.
you've gone off topic now. Right, I want to let Ruth jump in.
They've lost. It is the topic, Nemo.
So, I mean, again, we're past the watershed. That headline just made me chuckle. People's members in hot, humid areas. That just describes garments full stop, doesn't it? Male and female. So when the bit that sort of made me go, oh, that's really interesting, is the underskirt sort of design instead of wearing the long garment shorts for women. But they do mean just for women, don't they? But there are parts of the world where men wear, dress like clothing as part of their national clothing. That would be completely appropriate for a man
Polynesian
to wear.
dress.
Exactly. So are we going to allow them to wear an underskirt rather than garment bottoms? It should be
kilts.
because it's an appropriate thing to wear under the clothing that they're wearing, and actually is very good if it's in a hot, humid area to be able to let things breathe and move around as they should. So I think, again, we come down to the sexism of, no, but skirts are for women, but they're not, though, are they? Because it's just an item of clothing, and in some parts of the world, there's cultural norms that mean somewhere, a different outfits with us. So I just think it's interesting that they have tipped in that direction sooner than putting a bra in the top for women who have got boobs.
There is someone in beehive clothing that sees this furiously scribbling that idea down, Ruth, but it will take them 20 years to implement it before they can get it past their first presidency. To Peter's point, because I did cut him off, but I think you were making an excellent point, Peter, which is that they have lost control. Like you said, they've lost control of the information. They have lost control over the way that the public view them, over their PR machine, and they have lost control over modesty standards. The New for the Strength of Youth was a big step back in their control over people's bodies, just more broadly. People started getting tattoos because things became a little bit vague. And for the Strength of Youth, what they'll do is they'll let the cultural baggage keep tattoos as a taboo for a long time. That cultural baggage will definitely keep people going, no, they definitely mean respect your body, and that means no tattoos. But over time,
and
that
Christofferson
can then shift,
referenced that in his talk. We did
absolutely
Christofferson's conference talk in Elders Quorum today, and it was again the dog whistle. You are selfish and evil if you put career before having children, and you don't deface your bodies. They haven't given up that at all.
Evil
so again,
and
it's
selfish
civil war.
If you put career before body, even though we have one of the women's leaders of the church getting up and saying she ignored the Mothers in Zion pamphlet and went out and had a career anyway. So, and she got rewarded for it. But anyway, that's a different topic. We can go on to that. But I do want to raise the number of women, and I know young women that I grew up with who were shamed for their, showing their shoulders, or made to wear big, ugly t-shirts at church dances because they had their shoulders out. The whole porn shoulders thing hasn't come out of nowhere. The Dan and H Oaks walking pornography talk that young women, if they dress immodestly, which immodestly had very set lines upon the body, the modesty standard was, does it cover garments? And slowly people wear shorter and shorter garments so that they're not having to wear board shorts. But young women were encouraged to wear men's shorts in church magazines, told to go out and buy men's shorts when available because they're longer, help them cover their garments, all that sort of stuff. The church used to be very strict about all these things. You go to EFY or FSY or whatever you call, and they would check the length of your shorts. They would check no sleeves. And all of a sudden now you should be able to go to FSY next summer and be sleeveless, because that is now the new standard, because garments were always the driver of where things could or couldn't go to, because your garments had to be sacred. They had to be covered. But they're not going to do anything about the young women who were treated that way. And Ruth, I know you have daughters. I'm sure that they came up against all this. I had friends that did as well. People kicked out of dances, as Rebecca's saying, because their long sleeves were too see-through. And now all of a sudden that would just be a non-issue. And the church is going to once again just act like it was never a problem.
Because
and I wonder
desperate.
Whether
they've lost the youth, and they know it. They're
losing control.
They've lost control of seminary. To graduate seminary now, all you have to do is turn up and read a few scriptures, not the whole book. And they'll graduate you in batches, so they're not really even checking on individuals. It's all of these things that they used to clutch so tightly, and yet they'll still pontificate as if they're in charge. But in practice, it's all falling apart. But it's too late. It's too late to save themselves. And also, the way they could make this work is if they actually bothered with some kind of doctrinal narrative. They give a reason, but they've just hung out all of these youth leaders in wards and stakes across the church out to dry without enough information, as usual, like when they brought the gospel topics essays out with no supporting pastoral program. All these people who've run the modesty class based on all of that language around garments, they've just hung them out to dry with no explanation. So they will have to make up explanations. And some of them will hold on to the standards and say that still applies. It's only exceptions if you're in sort of the Congo that you can wear this stuff. And others will be like, it doesn't matter anymore. And that creates the conflict, the civil war, the tension between different people. It's just going to be so divisive. And this is negligence by the leadership, because they know that if they had any sense, they should know this is going to be incredibly divisive and cause all kinds of arguments. And they've not guided people as conscientious shepherds on how to deal with this and what the bottom line is. Everyone just assumes now that these garments will soon be available in every part of the world and it will no longer be an issue. But because they're used to the game being played, they're used to being manipulated. They're used to this sort of passive-aggressive drip feed of a change without support, without explanation or clarification. And when you talk to the local leaders, they're all just winging it and guessing as well. And suddenly our great leaders clam up and they haven't got anything to say.
And it's
a couple of
one
you,
my
go on, Ruth.
regrets. It's one of my biggest regrets. So I want to model for the church now what you do, which is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to those young women who I was State Young Women's Leader for, who I probably was giving lessons, giving talks, policing at dances, policing at camp, and saying, actually, can you wear this? Can you put this on? Our standards will be this for this dance. You know, I am sorry about that. Really, genuinely sorry for what I said when I thought that was the right thing to say, because I realise now, one, how very, very inappropriate and damaging that was, and two, how utterly ridiculous it was to sexualise children for the at the request of elderly men, and to prevent supposedly men from going off the rails. Then they should read their Bible and pluck their eyes out if they're having a problem with looking at a young woman who's wearing a t-shirt or who's wearing a skirt and you can see the back of her knees, for crying out loud.
Not to be that guy, Ruth, not to be that guy, but I'm going to be that ex-Mormon. Sexualizing 14-year-olds has been done since Joseph Smith's time. So really, it's part of pattern of the behavior, isn't it?
It absolutely is. But I'm sorry that I was part of that. And I think that's how, and the cult is a strong word, I know, but that's how the cult operates. It makes the regular members do the work, so that then it feels very, very hard. It's overwhelming almost to realize, one, that I've been duped, but two, that I've been part of that pattern of behavior, and inflicting that on other people. So if I can do anything with the platform that we have, it is modeled saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was wrong, and what I said and what I did was wrong in those circumstances, and I apologize. And if I could take it back now, I would. And I wish the church as an organization, and I wish the leaders of the church as humans, as fallible, could just, instead of saying things like this, we've made changes to bless members. No, instead of saying that, I wish they could just say, we were absolutely wrong, and we realise that, and we're going to make these changes because we realise there is a better way of doing things.
Yes, and also, when they say devout lest they say it's cherished the privilege of wearing temple garments, some of those members live in hot and humid areas, and have done for a very long time. This isn't new, right? The church hasn't just all of a sudden appeared in the deep south in the States where it's sweaty as anything, right? Floridian church members haven't just started to exist, you know? So it's such a nonsense. And yet people will take whatever crumbs from the table they can get, because this is some tiny crumb of change that's going to make their life somewhat more comfortable, and they're going to grab it and run with it. They're not really going to question the why now. They're just rejoicing that it's happened at all. I would argue for a lot of people, that's where they'll be with this. They'll be like, right, okay, well, I don't really care because now I can do it. And it might mean that, you know, women will then start to wear a shorter version of that slips. They can wear shorter skirts, and over time, they're going to do what schoolgirls do and start rolling up the top of the garment so that it's shorter. And about, well, I'm still wearing my garments, you know, and they will just continue to modify it, and people will continue to try and get away with little bits and little bits and little bits, and they'll be judged and they'll be judged and they'll be judged until all of a sudden it becomes mainstream, and then it's fine. Right? That's the way it will
and
work.
The church moves there,
as Jeffrey R. Holland said. Yes. And thanks to Doug Vincent for the super chat. Next we'll have garment speedos. Yes, budgie smugglers for the win. That would be great. But I want to let Peter rant and rave for a couple of minutes before we wrap up about the way the church is losing control of apologists. But before you do, Peter, I would like to preface this by saying I'm considered, and Peter very kindly prepared clips of these apologists saying these things. I decided I didn't want to put those clips in the presentation for a few different reasons. Mainly, I'm just not sure I could be bothered. But no, I didn't put these in. But we are going to talk about the way in which apologists, the church has lost control of its own apologists. The people that they've relied on to defend them aren't even defending them very well, and sometimes are openly attacking them. Peter, please.
So the reason I hadn't put out an episode since April until this weekend is I've been doing all Nemo's work for him, obviously, but also just I'm in the middle of a massive sort of epic research trawl of a lot of the whole spectrum of the voices now online and TikTok and everything defending the church. And my thesis is that pretty much all of them are identifying the same issues as the root causes of the church's problems as the critics of the church. We're actually on the same page. And the more you talk about Mormonism in the real world and engage in dialogue, the more you eventually arrive at the same conclusions. And the intellectual apologists for the church have done this long ago. So Terrell Givens and others, and Patrick Mason and Richard Bushman, all of them are now, they've completely rewritten Mormonism, as often gets discussed in the nuanced and post-Mormon space. They are now coming up with the idea that the Book of Mormon was mostly Joseph Smith's idea, maybe as a revelation, maybe, syncretic synthesis and so on. So they've rewritten the script from traditional orthodoxy and are gently trying to push that as best they can. You have the apologists, really, Saints Unscripted and all the others. They've actually gone quite a long way towards nuancing things up because they have to, because you can't do the full fare, just defend everything to the hilt while sounding ludicrous. And even Ward Radio, who I'm a huge fan of now, they are coming. I do encourage you to watch some of their episodes. They've done some really brilliant ones recently about how there should be a new calling of stake apologist, because they don't do any research. They don't realize that this has already been going on, that the leader of the church history department's outreach, I'm having a mental block. Viking name, what's his name? Keith
Halverson.
Erickson. Keith Erickson, who came to Britain and did the tour during the British Rescue a couple of years ago. He actually started training stake apologist specialists who are meant to be the go-to people for difficult church history. That's all, of course, died a death because they just appoint available people who have no clue what they're talking about in their space, and they probably already left the church if they actually started doing the homework. But there has been an attempt to do that already. But they're having other great ideas like special interest groups socially. But again, the tragedy is the ideas that Cardinal Ellis and his friends, who are now raising children, realizing their kids are probably going to leave the church, watching their wards disintegrate and lose everyone, and they're starting to think, what could we do to save this? If they'd actually listened to the post-Mormon and critical community, instead of slating us all as satanic opposition, we've already had all these ideas. I was doing, Lynn was laughing. She's like, you had these ideas 10 years ago. You've been saying in your podcast for 4 years. I was in the last Maidstone Stake activities committee, and our conclusion that we were about to launch when President Nelson decided it would be brilliant to get rid of stake activities committees was special interest groups. Just get people with common interests together, work with where people are actually at as individuals rather than one size fits all. We already had that idea. So the point there is they are coming around and realizing, and Carden is now saying in that episode about having stake apologists, he's literally ranted little rants. I had to slow it down and write it on a screen. I'll use the clips in my own podcast since you won't. But he's basically saying it's because we're led by geriatrics with no common sense, or who are absolutely out of touch, who don't know what's going on in the real world. He knows it, and he's saying it more and more, and he's challenging, and the others are challenging this culture of niceness and passive aggression that we've all been talking about today. They see that as a problem as well, because it stops the difficult conversations happening. So bless their hearts, they are coming around some truth. At times they're just idiotic frat boys and have no empathy for the people the church has harmed, but they also are working out the same as we are about what the problems are and what the positive solutions could be.
Cool.
So this So I have just finally released an episode
Yes.
about what
Plug
I
it.
feel is great in Mormonism. You know, the scriptures that could win the 21st century, the big ideas that are modernism friendly, that are, you know, all the good things. And if with a lot of critical analysis of the state of the church not doing them as well, but if you want a light version of Latter Day Digest has just put out it's less than an hour episode with me where I just trotted through the big ideas in a wholly positive way and referenced the scriptures involved, just as a little condensed package of what is still worth fighting for in Mormonism if you want to. Or I would also say, okay, if you're done with this religion but you're still processing, you were not stupid to love it. And it's a little reminder of what the good ideas were, what the inspiring ones, what the modernism, common sense, intellectual faith, rational faith friendly ideas in this religion were, that you were not stupid to find it attractive. And yeah, thank you, Dean.
I disagree. That's Daily Digest. I think we need to have a conversation. You need to teach me what your power is. Is it feeding him beforehand? Is it what is it?
He claimed he had to go to a lunch appointment. He just,
I
you know.
see. Oh, so if I give you a hard out, Peter, then
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it.
that's
Right.
it.
Okay. Cool. Got it.
But
Sorry, carry on.
but he
Carry on.
no, there was a good lecture in advance about how I wasn't going to read every detail. But there we go. You know, this is the thing, and this is the choice that the leadership have. They've got to work to their strengths. They've chosen not to. They've chosen to do all the wrong things in literally every field. They've shut down the fun. They've ended the activities committees. They are controlling everyone intensively. And when they then have to give way on the garments or anything else, they look ridiculous because they made the trivial the important. This is the mistake of the Pharisees. Instead of actually educating themselves about their big ideas and being a blessing and a rescue to the flaws in Christianity that this religion was meant to be. But instead they've turned inward, and I've got friends now posting images of Christ's return going any minute now. And I'm like, you do know that means that we will burn, that there'll be nuclear war, that there'll be plague, and a third of the earth will die. And you're all like, I can't be asked with growing this church anymore. And I'm a bit annoyed that my kids have all left and things are closing down. But I'm just going to think of the second coming of Jesus and it will all be fine. And that's literally what President Nelson's doing. They are in la-la lands. They've lost any kind of growth mindset. And the people who are trying to save this church have broken free of their control, including Ward Radio, bless their hearts. You know, that's how bad it's got. Even the militant, headbanging sort of defenders at all costs have realised this is a busted flush, this leadership.
When you say,
so let's unite.
Go on, Ruth.
second coming, any minute now, hashtag chosen generation. There was somebody put a fantastic clip on, I think it was on ExMormon Reddit, of all of the different times that people have been told throughout Mormon history, really, that they are the chosen generation. And it's in the same way. Joseph Smith thought the second coming, or said that the second coming was any minute now. And here we are 200 years on, still expecting it and putting off making important decisions and making positive, healthy choices for our own lives and those around us, because Jesus is coming, he'll sort it all out, won't he? Well, that's not good enough. And just you're the chosen generation. How about that chosen generation just step up and make a difference rather than just waiting for passively for something else to happen?
I believe, for those who aren't familiar with the back catalogue on my channel, I believe I've done a video to that effect. I'm pretty sure I've done a video where I go through all the different times people call the chosen generation.
Okay.
It's very old, though. So if you want to see me very fresh-faced talking through that, I'll put a link in the description. And then Ruth, there's a more modern version that can probably send me that is far more palatable and watchable. Anyway, right. So thank you very much, Peter, for that. And thank you, Ruth, for your contributions. Pleasure. Thanks both for joining. Thank you to the 774 people who are joining us live right now. That is great. Love to see it. And if any of you individuals would like to come and sing karaoke with me, and it's not just karaoke. There'll be a little bit of a chat as well, and there'll be some food. And then on the Saturday, we'll go for a walk or a chat or do whatever. We'll find some cool things to do. Come along, make a weekend of it, or certainly a couple of days of it. Even if you're in Europe, grab a little flight, come out over if you would like to. It'll be great. It'll be a great time. So come along, come and join in, and we'll see you there. If not there, I'll see you the next time I go live, or I should put my face on the screen, shouldn't I? The next time I go live, I will see you then. And so you don't miss it, make sure you subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up on your way out if you liked it. Consider becoming a monthly donor or a channel member if you want to just give a little bit of money that's very stable for me, or if you'd like to support me to a larger amount. There are monthly donation options available in the description. I think I might have put the links in. I might not. I'm still working towards trying to get back on my full-time schedule, but this has been a great live stream and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much, everyone. And for those that can't make it to the Thrive because you're in America, I will be coming to America next year, and I will hopefully see you then. So on that, take care. Have a good evening. I'm off to eat some jammy Dodgers. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.